Oh, I need full screen. Yeah. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Jobe's Motorsport League. As you can see, we're already underway here for the second round of the NASCAR Cup Series here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. We've got cars starting to spread out all the while on about lap 3, 4 here, having a couple of technical issues with the broadcast at the moment, but they will be fixed in due course, I assure you. At the moment, then, Miguel Carrera's had the best of starts in the number 20, already with a couple of car lengths of an advantage over Garrett Cannon there. So it's Chevy, Toyota, Chevy. Ford's not proving that popular in the league at the moment. We've got this battle going on for second position between Cannon and Blackley. It actually might be a big freeway fight. You've got Brody Biscuit there in the number 8. He cut back. A bit of a side-by-side moment. I'm pretty sure that's Darby Marioff on the inside of the 21. Yes, he is on the inside of the 13. But Guerrero, who's had the best of starts then. Lap 4, 160 laps, and we've had a bit of full contact there from what I can see, but it might be Darby Marioff possibly. In the 21, he's going to try and go, well, he's going to have to hold his position from the 7 of Bobby Goldschmidt. Although this is kind of where the battle's happening. Up front, meanwhile, there's still Nico Carrera from Garrett Cannon, Matthew Blackley, and Davis Greenwell in 4th. There is Marioff side by side trying to hold position, also trying to sneak up the inside of Brody Biscombe as well. No, goodness me, contact, but and Marioff nearly turned around. Manages to hold it though, so we're going to stay green. That would have been awful for him to be turned around like that on lap 6 of 160.
I got you.
It's a long way to go in this one. At the moment, it's Miguel Pereira controlling the field. Garrett Cannon having to do good defensive driving from Matthew Blackley with Davis Greenwell there. Just hanging on to the back of this little quartet we have at the front of the field at the moment. Should mention actually as well, it's Davis Greenwell, the only man who started the first race at Daytona. This is the second round of the season for NASCAR. If you weren't there, the second round of the GT3 League was what we had last season. Last week even, that was an insane finish, I must add. There is Blackley having a look on the inside of Garrett Cannon, number 25, who was there last week and played kind of a hand in the drama last time out when we had the inaugural Jobe's Motorsports League NASCAR race at Daytona. But it is Chevy, Toyota, Chevy still in this top 4. Side by side there is Cannon and Blackley. Through turn 3. Looks like, yeah, Blackley's got him there. So Blackley will move up one spot, almost looking for it as well. Davis Greenwell, who's closing up to the back of the 25. Might he be thinking about having a move, but he's going to dive to the inside line. It's a tight corner. And actually, look at the 41 now, battle for the lead. 41, Matthew Blackley. He's turned up the pace in the last couple of laps. And what he's now going to try and do is take Miguel Carrera, who's been running completely untroubled for the first 10 or so laps of this race. And Blackley on the inside. In the pink 41 machine, they're going to be side by side into turn 1. But look at that. Carrera able to get the stronger run off the corner. Will hold it side by side for the moment. But it's the 41 who's still staying on that inside line. He's going to have a look at completing the pass through turns 1 and 2. Carrera's going to hold him to it though. Look how close they are, and he's going to have to try and get that run off turn 4 again. Blackwell's going to stick up to the inside, try and maybe move up the racetrack a little bit, try and use the side draft to pull alongside, which he's going to try and do. It's going to be the finest margin to divide them on that lap. We've got a real race with the lead here in round 2. Meanwhile, Davis Greenwell goes round the outside of Garrett Cannon, so it's a completely different situation now, 13 laps into the race. How long have these two been side by side at the front? Well, Blackwell has to tuck into the draft of Guerrero, who's seemingly enjoying that outside line for defensive purposes, moves back in to block Blackley at the moment in the 41. He's happy just to resume running that bottom line, which is what we've been seeing so far. Seems to be the preferred line, it must be said. Now he's not perceiving himself to be under a threat of immediate of an immediate move from Blackley, so he'll resume running that bottom line. Meanwhile, you've got Colby Goldschmidt, who was present in NASCAR last time round and also GT3 last week at Spa, running 5th. He's starting to close up to the back of Garrett Cannon, who's sort of resumed himself in 4th place. I wonder whether it's a pace thing or is it fuel saving perhaps. Of course, we're only running 80% of a full fuel tank on all of these NASCARs, so there will be refueling today. There will be tyre stops as well, I imagine. 160 laps, so 40% of what NASCAR would normally do here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. And we do of course have the threat of cautions if anything does happen. We of course nearly saw it earlier with Darby Marioff nearly spinning out very early on. He managed to hold it though, and that was some really good skill from him at the moment. Meanwhile though, Carrera's done a brilliant job in holding off Matthew Blackley for the moment here. The sponsorless number 41 machine now is looking like he might be under pressure from Davis Greenwell, number 22, who was there last time round at Daytona. Now he's searching for something a bit more than what he experienced really. Didn't have the best of luck in his first race in this series. Now he's trying to hunt down the second place chart, who really had the pace for first, but I think perhaps the defense of Carrera was so good that he just used up his tyres, or he felt it wasn't worth it to use up those tyres, and that field at this point of the race happy just to sit in the draft at the moment and conserve those fuel and those tyres. He is 900 I rating to the good of the current race leader. He's 3.6k, Carrera's 2.5, so still certainly up there in terms of the numbers, well above average. Maybe he's thinking I can get him later on in the race when the strategy and the tyres and the fuel come into play. Greenwell is still trying to hunt him down, number 22, but the gap it is falling, but perhaps not as much as Greenwell would like. Meanwhile, you can see Garrett Cannon has just sort of drifted off the back of these three at the moment. Colby Goldschmidt just running in 4th there, and he's happy to at the moment. So, Davis Greenwell, Michael Blackley, that's the fight we're focusing on at the moment. Toyota versus Chevrolet. In fact, no, it is Toyota Chevrolet. Sorry, but we've got top 5. There's one Chevrolet, one Toyota, 4 Chevrolets in the top 5, I should say. Greenwell, I think he's going to have a look at a move in a couple of laps' time. He's starting to close up to the point that he could have a move. All he needs really is a solid run out of turn 2 or turn 4, and he can really start to think about it. And now Matthew Blackley, who'd been so on the back of Miguel Carrera earlier on, he's now going to think about defending this second place, because Davis Greenwell, there's always a bigger fish really, because Carrera's 2.6k rating, Matthew Blackley 3.8.5, but David Greenwell 4.5k rating. The man with the most of anybody in this field right now, trying to just back that number up with a good finish here at Charlotte Motor Speedways. Again, just can't quite get the run he needs off that final corner as Davis Greenwell just makes a bit of contact with the wall there. We've got Brody Bishop, the number 8 car, I think has gone into the pits for some reason. He just flashed up on the timing screens there as being an overtake, so we'll have to get an update on that at some point. But for now, the focus is all on Matthew Blackley against Davis Greenwell, who's going to have a look to the outside line. Maybe he was thinking he could hang it around the outside of turn 4, because we know that you can get a very powerful draft off that corner. But it's just not going to happen for him at the moment. On the inside now he goes. They're starting to use those lines, just adjust one corner entry and exit, trying to outdo each other at the moment. This is where it gets interesting, because you're using different lines, you're using different turning points, you're using different braking points. It all comes into play, trying to outdo the driver behind and the driver ahead. For now, it is Matthew Blackley who's holding off a driver 900 I rating stronger than him on paper at least. And Davis Greenwell can't seem to do anything at the moment. I think they're kind of equal to each other. Miguel Carrera is only about a second up the road, so it's not necessarily a situation of they're losing too much time, because we've already seen that Carrera can be caught. But for now, he's happy just to relax, and we're going to get to we're very much at the point now of the race where you are in your groove. You know, you're warmed up, your tyres are warmed up, your fuel is starting to trickle away, so you're going to slowly get lighter throughout the stint. You're familiar with the layout, and you start to enter flow state. That's really what happens when you get into these races. You sort of get so accustomed to what you're doing, it becomes kind of monotonous almost, and you, well, from my experience at least, you just sort of
used to just use a dog for nothing.
Start to find your own patterns, really. I think that's what we're seeing at the moment. They're not really making any indentation on Miguel Carrera up front. The gap remains about, well, 0.6 is what timing is saying for those guys. They've got about 2 seconds on Garrett Cannon, who's still starting to fall away. Jobe Goldschmidt behind him is 3.5 seconds back. So not an impossible gap to catch up, but it's certainly, without the intervention of a caution, I find it difficult to believe they'll be able to, because what these two are actually doing, because that gap between these two and and Garrett Cannon has gone up to 2.0 already, so they are gaining time just by running with each other like this. They're gaining time on everybody behind. They're opening that gap up when it comes to green flag fuel stops and pit stops, which I'm sure we'll see throughout this race. That's going to be super advantageous, because it's only a couple of tenths they're gaining by running like this, but we know that 2 cars running as one is faster than one. If you add a 3rd car on, it becomes even faster. Add a 4th car, it becomes even faster. It's almost like professional cycling, where if you have that sort of small bunch working together, you're going to gain a lot of time. And that is what we're seeing. Slowly but surely, those gaps to the drivers behind are increasing. It's already gone up 3 tenths on this lap alone as they enter turn 4. I wonder if they're thinking, perhaps we need to work together to catch Miguel Carrera, because I think that's exactly what's happening. The gap's staying at 0.6. Carrera is managing to hold these two off. But the way they're running in that draft tells me that I think they're sort of happy to almost tandem draft it without the contact, really. Whether we will get a Trevor Baynes sort of finish in this race, will we have to wait and find out, because we're 27 laps in already. We're easing our way in, starting to get into that long run pace, which is going to be super important for this one. Because I think I get the feeling that the short runs are not really going to be much of a factor. It's going to be about your long run pace and how you can look after the tyres. And what Davis Greenwell is doing is he's looking after those tyres, and he's looking after the fuel. You're going to save a tiny bit just by staying in the draft, because of course you can moderate that throttle just that little bit extra by staying behind the guy in front. What Miguel Carrera has got, meanwhile, is completely free air, so he's going to be saving his tyres that bit much more, but he isn't going to have the fuel saving abilities of Davis Greenwell. So it starts to become a little bit of a tactical game now, because while Carrera can save his tyres, he can't save his fuel, and while Davis Greenwell can save his fuel, he can't necessarily save his tyres, because that dirty air is going to be hurting him every single corner by a fractional amount. That will build up, of course, and to a lesser extent Matthew Blackley's going to have the same problem, because he's sort of in that dirty area, in that wash as well, not to the extent that Davis Greenwell is, but he's still going to be feeling that effect. And I think that's going to be where these guys are going to have to contend with the consequences of this later on in the race. It'll be slightly different for each of them, of course, but that's something to keep an eye on, because they seem to be the drivers that have the pace to win this week here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. The gap back is now 3 seconds to Garrett Cannon, who ran up front last week at Daytona. It was a very topsy-turvy race, very much a changeable one. Also got Lee Robertson, I think, has also entered the pit from what I can see. So a couple of guys already in there. Whether it's damage or whether it's fuel, but it looks to be pit stops, because I can see Hunter McMakin in the 10. running around like that as well. So I've got a feeling that there's been a couple of incidents we just haven't seen on the broadcast at the moment. Should say, shout out to the absolute legend that is Jobe for broadcasting this one for us. Again, we've got those technical issues, but we are, we've said it before, it's kind of inevitable when you are starting a league of such a huge scope already, with doubling, tripling grid sizes every week at this rate. So plenty more to come in a lot of areas, and super excited to see where we can go with this. Of course, this is just the second race ever for NASCAR Cup cars in this league as a whole, so stay tuned for what's to come, because we are building something here. It's just, for the moment, the broadcast team is myself. Misha at the moment he should be in the booth at some point today, and of course Jobe, who is every week really has been working tirelessly to get everything up and running, and of course broadcasting this race for us. So massive shout out to him, because without him and without Misha, this league would not be possible. It would not be a thing, because they are the people who created it, and I'm just a commentator. But at the moment then, it's still this battle between Blackley and Greenwell, who are captivating us at the moment. Miguel Carrera he's broken away by a couple of attempts. It's come up to about a second or so out of that corner, but it's never more than a tenth. But he seems to lose or gain, really. Contrast that to the Garrett Cannon, who's dropped back by 3.6 seconds now to these two that are running side by side. Here's the 4. Here is the 17, I should say, of John Norton. Behind them, that is Darby Marioff running with Colby Goldschmidt side by side into turn 1. Looks like Darby's got the better of Goldschmidt, who of course was running in the GT3 League last week. He's running quite strongly as well, until a bit of contact kind of scuppered his chances. If you haven't seen the finish of that race, by the way, highly recommend you go and check it out. It is a bit of a must watch, with the way that all unfolded on the final lap drama, that we couldn't believe from the commentary box, much less the drivers, I'm sure. For the moment though, Greenwell and Blackley still running line astern down the back straight here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. We're almost 50 laps in, so we're almost a third of the way through this one. It's amazing how time flies. Time flies by when you're having fun, and I'm sure all these guys are having fun as well. It seems to be quite, I imagine these two are being quite entertained by this battle. I think we're sort of seeing a bit of a stalemate, really, in the sense that I think Greenwell, if he wanted to, he probably would be going for the pass now, but I think he's happy to stay in the wheel tracks of Matthew Blackley at the moment, the 41 machine. We mentioned just get that extra little bit of fuel saving in, and let Blackley do the majority of the work in terms of catching up to Miguel Carrera. But I don't think it's working, because Carrera's opened up that gap to just over a second now. So what Blackley's going to have to contend with is the fact he is losing the draft now. They've really got to work together to catch Carrera up before he starts to break that toe, and then they've got to... Well, if Carrera were to break that toe, it would spell a miniature disaster for these two, because it would be hard to find a way of catching that deficit back up, because it stayed at 1.2 across that lap. So I think we're going to see Carrera starting to break away, and then possibly open that gap up. And Greenwell really needs to make the pass now, I think, because he's going to lose that draft, and then suddenly it becomes a question of, are you even able to get back into the slipstream, which is going to help you get back into the lead of the race for the first time. So if there was a time to make him, we've got pit stops coming up shortly as well. We're officially a quarter of the way through this one. But I would suggest these two need to make their move, and perhaps they are doing, because that gap's now 0.8 seconds. So they've slightly turned the power on, starting to bring it down. I think if we can make this a three-way fight, it'd be Very, very enticing to see what happens ahead of the pit stops. And look at that, Carrera's running the high side now. Maybe he is feeling a bit threatened. The gap's 0.7 seconds. So, Davis Greenwood and Matthew, look at the gap now. It's fallen to 0.6. Has Carrera pushed his tyres too hard? Was he pushing all the while? And is that kind of hurting his race at the moment? Because the gap's fallen well inside a second now. So I wonder if Blackley and Greenwell, the 41 and the 32, are starting to make that inroad and work together. As I've mentioned, here is the 17 of John Norton, going down in P5 at the moment, half a second behind Brody Biscup, who's one of the very few drivers using that high line. As we see Darby Marioff now, part of the Aventus Motorsports crew that had a solid run at the 24 Hours of the Nürburgring that I was a part of. Very, very glad to have him as my teammate for that one. And there's a whole host of endurance races that you can catch the Aventus Motorsport guys over the summer. Here there is, look at this side by side between Blackley and Greenwell, and Greenwell's going to do it, I think, on the inside. This is the go time for the 32, 22 even. He is not wasting any more time, because look at that. He gets the job done, and now I think he's going to start pushing on to try and catch Miguel Carrera before things get too late into the stint. He's already opened a couple of car lengths on the 41 machine. I think this is where he starts to make his move and reel in Miguel Carrera, does Davis Greenwell, because look at that. And that confirms the theory. Davis Greenwell was just happy to sit in the wheel tracks of the 41. Not necessarily a pace deficit issue. It is very much a fuel saving thing, and that's going to allow him to close right up to the back of Miguel Carrera, who's, and look at that now. They're both opening up a lot of time. They're starting to push each other, that top two, and Matthew Blackley's now been dropped. So still running third with a good margin, about 4 seconds to the good of Garrett Cannon, but he's been dropped by the top two, who will now be entering a duel of their own, because they're only about 0.6 seconds between each other. Matthew Blackley needs to find a way of regrouping as we cut to Miguel Carrera, who's led pretty much every lap of this. In fact, he has led every single lap of this race. And now he's got a brand new challenger, because Davis Greenwell is starting to close that gap. 0.7 seconds it stands as they cross the line, as Kobe Goldschmidt now, I think, has entered the pits. Whether that's an early stop or whether he's had some kind of damage, we'll have to wait and find out. But the 20, for the first time in this race, is now coming under real pressure, and this is real pressure, because look at Davis Greenwell and the way he's reeling in the race leader right now. They're still running the similar lines, but I think Greenwell just feels that bit much more comfortable in his Chevy. It's not a difference in manufacture. It's Chevy v Chevy for the race lead at the moment, and it's slowly coming down, 0.5, so it's half a second between the two of them as we run. Matthew Blackley meanwhile has been dropped by 2 seconds already, so it's definitely a case of getting a move on for these top two, and as Carrera is trying to hold off the charging Davis Greenwell, sorry. 0.6 seconds. The gap seems to sort of stabilise at the moment. I think Carrera has been so good so far at just knowing exactly how hard he needs to push at any given moment. He's comfortable with the gap he's got now. He doesn't feel he needs to go and start overdriving the car, especially not at this late stage in the first stint with 48 laps completed, so nearly a third of the way through the race. It's estimated really that you're only going to need one fuel stop if it's an 80% fuel tank. But that's still inviting an awful lot of strategy, whether you go for the undercut or the overcut here. And actually that gap now between Carrera and Greenwood is starting to open up between the 20 and the 22. I must say, Miguel Carrera, he's going to be surely feeling very confident about this one so far, because he's led every lap. He's looked completely untouchable Definitely the strongest driver in the field so far today. Yes, that will have been helped by his clean air, by the clean air he will have received for much of the race. But also, we've seen it on a couple of occasions already where the gap starts to close up and he just turns it up and finds those extra tenths when he needs to. And now he does finally make that first pit stop. So the fuel tanks are being depleted. The pit strategy now enters the fray. And Davis Greenwell is about to find out whether the overcut is the optimal strategy here at Charlotte Motor Speedway, because he's stayed out a lap longer. In fact, I think he might be staying. He's going to stay out for 2 laps now. Behind him, there's Matthew Blackley, who's closed that gap to 2.1 to about 2 seconds. So he's saved half a second somewhere along the line. They're both staying out, so they're able to go a couple of extra. I wonder whether Carrera's maybe pushed too hard on the fuel numbers, and that's why he's gone so early. What it means is that Davis Greenwell, he ran a 1/10 of a second faster, but look at this. This is Kirby Goldschmidt now, who's caught all the way up to the 41, and now he's going to make the move. Well, Blackley has the fastest lap overall, but look at the pace difference. 0.3 of a second. That's how much faster Kobe Goldschmidt was on that lap alone. That's a lot of time. And when you look at do the maths and realise that Davis Green was only 1.8 seconds up the road, it's going to be a matter of laps at this rate before Kobe Goldschmidt comes out of nowhere. Look at the gap he's already pulled on Matthew Blackley. That's about a second just on 1 lap. I don't know what he's had for breakfast, but he saved his tyres and fuel right when he needed it most. And now Kirby Goldschmidt looks like the man with the momentum behind him, because he's already cut that gap down by about a second almost. It sits at 0.9 now. Within 3 laps, he's going to be able to make that striking distance. Well, what we did see though is that he's running 8th at the moment, but he's got a lot of pace. It would have been helped by the fact he pitted a lot earlier than some of the other guys now. Meanwhile, Biscup, Darby Marioth and Matthew Blackley also make the pit. So Matthew Blackley makes the pit stop.
22.
And Davis Greenwell is just able to continue running pretty much untroubled at all. There is the 17 of John Norton, who will slot in behind these two. In fact, I think that's about our position potentially. And as the 22 is brought into pit lane, this is the money stop for Davis Greenwell. He's got to make sure he comes out ahead of Matthew Blackley. This is where we find out whether the undercut is the preferred strategy here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. The 8 of Brody Briscoe has just exited pit lane. He's running 9th at the moment. A lap down or so. Well, I'd say it's a fight for a lap, but it actually isn't. John Norton is running 5th. Colby Goldschmidt is 8th. So I think Norton's a lap ahead. Also, still a good battle to watch, side by side on the back straight at the moment, and he's going to have to look at the inside line, John Norton, just try and get the move done as cleanly and as precisely as he can. Meanwhile, here is what the lead battle looks like after the pit stop. So Miguel Carrera, he actually managed to pretty much hold the lead. There wasn't a huge change in terms of the gap after that first round of pit stops. He's stayed pretty much in the lead, pretty much exactly where he was. Really, it's kind of just as you were for these top two, because the gap's 0.6 as they come down the back straight, 0.7 as they head into that corner, and so really nothing's changed. I thought that the undercut strategy from Miguel Carrera, by being first to react, that's not normally how you see it, would allow Davis Greenwell to make that move, but he's stayed behind, so maybe he's taken on a bit more fuel or something, maybe he's taken a tyre or two, but for now it is Miguel Carrera, who's managed to hold his lead. Perhaps he underfueled. We don't quite know, but what we do know is, just on the maths alone, that Miguel Carrera, he may be in the lead now, but he's got to contend with a deficit in terms of the fuel of about 3 or 4 laps, and that's a lot of laps when you think about it, especially towards the end of the race when you're trying to fuel save. You've got a 4-lap fuel deficit, a 4-lap tyre deficit, so the guy behind you. And we're starting to see that Davis Greenwell can use that advantage, because he's actually cutting into that gap just at the moment on those slightly fresher tyres. It's about 0.6 seconds, so he's started to make the slightest of inroads at the moment. Behind them, you've got Darby Marioff, well, running 7th at the moment. You've got Colby Goldsmith 8th, Brady Biscup 9th. Haven't seen too much of him today. Michael Donoghue running 6th. All right. No, it's fine. Yeah. And I've got good news, because we've got Misha back in the booth.
Yes, sir. I apologize to everybody for not being here, and I'd like to thank you, Thomas, for taking over. It was quite the hectic night here in my household. We got it all taken care of. Yeah, man. Crazy that this race has been green flag all the way throughout. You guys have been keeping it clean. I've been watching in the background. Saw that undercut did not end up, or that overcut did not work for Davis. So, yeah, man, great race so far.
Yeah, I was going to ask you your thoughts, and pretty much that mirrors mine, really, in the sense that it's a case of just running completely in order, really. It's been very, very clean. Haven't had the dramas of Daytona that we saw a couple of weeks ago. Instead, actually, it's been pretty consistent. Actually, what I can tell you is that Matthew Blackley's dropped quite a way away. So potentially what we're seeing is, we know that Blackley pitted, I think, in between Carrera and Davis, if I'm getting my timings right. So maybe, I don't know quite what happened. Maybe he's taken fresh tyres and lost a bit of time trying to warm them up. But I guess if you're in his position right now, you know you haven't really got the pace on the top 2. You need to try something different. Perhaps that's what he's done. He's 7 seconds back at the moment. He's got Darby Marioff running between himself and Davis Greenwell. So it'll have to be interesting to see if he can find a way back. Yeah, no, Darby, it's been Misha, it's been very, very consistent, very, very clean. I've enjoyed it. It's been good, and I think what we're seeing at the moment from Miguel Carrera is potentially a brand new star announcing his name to this league, because he's been the absolute class of the field so far.
Yeah, for sure. He's looked great so far. And I mean, really says a lot about his skill to be able to hold Davis back with 4-lap older tires, that is. And as you know, in NASCAR, that can mean a lot, but really holding it consistently here at about 8/10, really impressive. Yeah, man, just awesome performance, and that's the good thing that, you know, we were talking about it earlier, the difference between super speedways and every other track, and I was talking about how I love every other track because you can really see every aspect of a driver's skill, and right now you're really seeing it with Miguel. Obviously, he's very good at conserving those tires, has great pace. He's taken a different line a couple times, you know. Definitely looks like he's pretty experienced and, like you said, going to be a player.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, we saw him running that kind of high side when he was feeling a bit more threatened by, well, originally it was actually the 41 that was challenging him the hardest, and that was kind of forcing him to use that different line, which he did to great effect, in fairness. We saw him able to hold off that challenge earlier in the race by running that high side, getting that run off the corner, using that extra momentum, that extra couple of miles an hour you gain by running closer to the wall, and that really helps him. So he's got that versatility in his locker as well. But for now, what we're seeing, he's running that inside line, so he's not feeling threatened at all. He's feeling really, really comfortable in that Chevrolet NASCAR. And why not? Because if you look at his stats, of course he won't lead every lap today because it's impossible to do that when you are under green flag pit stops. But pretty much, for all intents and purposes, he's been leading the way all day. And I thought Davis Greenwell would actually be able to catch him here, and it certainly looked like he did. Once he moved past Michael Blackwell in the 41, he really turned up the pace and closed it down to about half a second. And it's kind of, the gap stabilized really since, hasn't it? So what do you think he's going to have to do to try and find that extra bit of pace?
Yeah, I don't know, man, because that's the thing I can really say. Drive harder, but then you're going to go through your tires, obviously, and Davis, obviously, we saw him be very methodical in that first hit, right? So he might just be, because right now, last time I brought it up, he was 8/10. He's 5/10 away now. So, I mean, he might 4/10 now. He's not just steadily knocking away. He seems like a very methodical driver. Doesn't look like he's going to let his emotions get to him. Not going to over-push his car, overheat the tires, burn through him. Definitely looks like he's just slowly catching them up. Might have it in the back of his mind that he does have 4-lap pressure tires. And right now, 3/10.
Yeah, I think the overcut strategy, it's not going to work in terms of the short-term gain, in terms of immediately getting that race lead. But as you mentioned, it might only sound like 4 laps of a NASCAR track, but it still means a whole lot for your tyres. And of course he's going to have, he'll be running slightly heavier on the field, but he's able to go longer on this second stint, which will mean if we go green all the way, that's a shorter splash and dash when it comes to that kind of side of the race, because we are going to need another stop before the end of this one. And what we did see, actually, it's worth mentioning, the way he went about racing Matthew Blackley in the 41 was that he just stayed on his bumper for about 20 or so laps, and then when he felt he needed to, when he felt the time was right, he then stepped on the gas and made very light work of the 41. And now what you can see is he's starting to close up. He's now properly in the slipstream. I think he's just sort of thought, well, maybe if I move forward by a couple of attempts, I can try and wear Miguel down here a little bit. And as we see, the gap is closer than it ever has been. It's actually 0.2 seconds. That Misha, I think we might be seeing a perfect display of exactly how these two go racing.
Yeah, for sure. And like we said, this is not pushing the car. It's just been a steady creep towards the bumper of Miguel. With that little tap of the wall right here, we might be getting action on here in turn 1. We're getting very close. Looks like he was able to recover well. But yeah, no, just a masterclass performance by both of these guys. Both of these guys seem very good.
Yeah, it's really... Yeah, it's lovely to watch, I've got to say, as well, when they're running this closely, and there's that sense that it's almost like I'm getting sort of Jaws imagery in my head, because again we saw it earlier where Davis kind of chose his moment, and it was very sudden in the way in which he dealt with with Matthew Blackley in the 41. And I think the same's happening here, because look at that. Out of that last corner, he closed up by about a couple of attempts. Now he's running really close. He's going to get the momentum through the final corner, and he's look at the slipstream now. He's going to have into that final corner now. Is he going to run high? Well, he's running a slightly higher line this time. Look at that. You've got Miguel Carrera, who's starting to run the high line. We saw that earlier, where he was able to run that when he felt threatened, and I think now he is, because look at the gap. It is almost, you can throw a blanket over them. It's almost a car length exactly between Davis Greenwell and Miguel Carrera, and Carrera is starting to run a slightly higher line, isn't he?
Yes, he is staying off that line a little bit more, carry a little bit more speed through that. You see though, that might put his tires a little bit more, so we'll have to see, because he's definitely pushing to keep Davis behind. And as we've seen thus far, Davis is not good at pushes. Very methodical. Oh, Davis, the high line now.
Yeah. Well, he's trying something different, isn't he? They moved past the 4 that was there at Daytona last time round. That is Michael Donoghue, still sporting the Red Bull livery from Daytona. There is the third place man, all on his own really at the moment. But I think Garrett Cannon might have something to say about that, because he's starting to close up. That gap's about 0.7 of what we're seeing on the timing screen. So 25 started really strong, I thought, and then kind of faded off with just didn't have the pace, or whether he was saving tyres and maybe just driving a bit more underneath that limit. Well, at the other end of the field, 2 drivers who are on the limit, it seems. Miguel Carrera leading by about... Well, the gap started to increase again. I think what happened with Davis is he obviously sort of felt he could go for it, gave it full beans for a few laps, and then just sort of he's backed off a little bit more. He's staying with him, but he's not kind of giving it 110% and just giving it all of that extra squeeze off the corner, is he? I think he's still waiting for his moment as they come up on the traffic of Brody Biscup there, who I think he's...
want to point out they in the process. That's two laps down for 8th place right now. They are cooking right now. It's like everybody only P4 and up are on the lead lap. We've had no caution. I say that we've seen a lot of wall strikes in turn 4, but yeah, these guys are putting on a master class, just cooking the rest of the boys right now. We'll see if with caution, it's going to make it very interesting. Bring the field back together, see if anybody can do anything about this. Because when you look at everybody's fastest lap, all very close, but that doesn't tell the overall pace of the overall stint. So just have to see.
Well, yeah, just to give you an idea of how closely these guys are running, on their last lap, as you might be able to see it actually on the broadcast, they were running within half a tenth of each other on that last lap. They both posted 30.5s. And I think what we're seeing actually is that we saw it earlier, and this is actually how he was able to save those 4 laps, because, of course, Davis Greenwell, he was sitting on the back of Matthew Blackley for so long, about 20 laps or so, in the middle part of that first stint. And that's where he was able to save those 4 laps of fuel that's now put him in this position where he's essentially doing the same thing again. I think what he's doing might be actually very clever, because if he wanted to, just on pace alone, we know he has the pace on Miguel here. But what he's doing instead is actually being very smart and just running in the slipstream of the race leader and doing the same thing again. Saving that fuel, saving those tyres. Yes, he's got to deal with the dirty air, but he's also just poking his car into clear air in the mid-corner, as you just saw there. He's essentially doing the same thing, isn't he, Misha? He's just saving his tyres, saving his fuel, and he's very happy to just be that constant presence in the back of Miguel Carrera's mind at the moment.
Yeah, for sure. He closed it up awfully quick and slowed down. It's awfully like what he did to Michael Blackley early on. So, I'm sorry, Matthew Blackley, excuse me. But yeah, I expect here. I think they did about, what did they say, about in the lap 50? I think in the 50s, am I correct?
It was around that time, yeah.
Oh, right, it says it right there. At least I don't know if you can see this overlay. So, lap 52 for Miguel, lap 57 for Davis, lap 56 for Matthew, and lap 54 for Gary in P4. And those are the only guys on the lead lap currently. So it's going to be very interesting, because that's the laps later that he went.
Well, something's happened to Miguel Carrera there, because he's... I know it was just a bit of a drop out there, I think, on the connection on the server, because Davis Greenwell is running around at the moment, still scored in second. Miguel Carrera is just dropping.
We got to hope that he is not having connection problems. Let's hope and pray, gentlemen, right now.
Yeah, well, he hasn't had connection. He hasn't had connection issues all day, so far he's not blinked once, and now he's suddenly... We really hope this issue can be resolved. I mean, imagine being Davis Greenwell, because you can trust that Miguel make it through each corner well, but you haven't really got that 100% guarantee while Miguel is phasing in and out of the track at the moment. So we hope for his sake that can get resolved as soon as possible, and hopefully it can just sort of sort itself out. We won't need to go into the pits, because I think if he was to lose this race on some momentary blinking, he's sort of stabilised now, I think, touch wood at least. But yeah, that must be very scary. I've never been, fortunately, in a blinking situation where I'm actually the one blinking on iRacing. I've been in plenty of situations where I'm racing people who are phasing in and out, but I think Miguel Ferreira has sorted that out very, very, very thankfully, because I hate for him to lose this race potentially on something that was no fault of his own, because right now he's putting up an absolute defensive masterclass in giving David Greenwell just enough of the draft so that 22 can stay in it, but never quite have the momentum to go for a move on the inside of the corner, because he's defending it so well. What Davis Greenwell's doing now, though, he's starting to dip out of that draft in the mid corner to I think probably just dip those tyres into clear air and just limit the damage that's potentially being done by the dirty air that he's very much sucked himself into.
Definitely looks a little bit more lively now.
Yeah.
So I can see him making the pounds here and starting to take off very shortly, because it's like
Yeah, and also we know that he tried the overcut and that didn't work. So whether he's going to try the undercut and see if that works, because I don't know whether maybe this is all he's got. I don't know, but from what I'm seeing, is we've got a caution now.
We need to have
The caution flag is out just as you mentioned. The prospect of the pit, we're both going to get a free stop here. I can't quite remember who. Well, we're not finding out yet who that caution's for. But the fact is, we've made it almost 100 laps, over half the race. We've made it without needing a single yellow flag lap. Now that's going to change completely. And the big question on everyone's minds now is what happens with Davis Greenwell and Miguel Carrera. Do they pit on the same lap? Do they pit on different laps? Do they pit at all? What do you? I mean, if you're either of these guys now, Nisha, what do you do? What are you doing?
I'd pit now. I mean, we talked about it actually in the GT3 race. We saw one of our racers, Wyatt, almost cost himself the race by not pitting under yellow, and it's a free pit stop. And from here, if you pit now, I mean, I'm trying to. I mean, as of right now, if you pit, Davis is going to come out in the lead because of fuel. That's what I was trying to figure out in my head. And if they both pit now, Davis is going to 100% come out in first place. So I would definitely follow him in.
They're both pitting.
Yeah.
Well, actually, they're not all pitting. The top four will come in, but everybody else, I think, is going to stay out and try and get back on the lead lap.
Everybody else is trying to get that lap back, but watch here. I almost guarantee that Davis is going to pull out of the pit stall a good second before Miguel.
Well, that's the thing. He doesn't necessarily need to fuel as much because he's saved those 4 laps, and that could be what it's all about. But look at that, though, as they're going to change their tyres. That's the one thing that's certain. The thing is, though, Miguel, by getting on pole, he's got the closest run to the line, and that's exactly what's going to happen. Meanwhile, Garrett Cannon gets jumped by the 41 in the pits, and actually, look at that.
Wow.
The 22 of Davis Greenwell is going to come out in 4th, so he's going to have work to do on the restart, and that's the advantage of getting that pole position for Miguel Carrera, who secured pole, got himself that lovely pit stall, the closest one to that yellow cutoff line that decides where you start. And that is the reward essentially, because that has basically kept him in the lead of this race
I will
with
say
his
though,
rival 2 cars down.
I will say though, that was an extremely slow stop by Davis. Because you are right about the first pit stall, but Davis would have been arriving to hit his pit stall before, and presumably needed
Mm.
less fuel. So I wonder if he slid through. I don't know if we did it. If we we might have missed something. He might have slipped through a stall. There's a lot of things that could have just happened there. But I really don't have an answer because on my relative, I'm not even seeing him right now on my relative.
Well, that's the thing. Well, potentially, the other thing I was going to bring up was, well, tyre strategy is going to come into play quite a lot here. So it could be that he just took 4 tyres and maybe Carrera didn't take any, or the guys ahead only took 2. It could be a tyre choice situation. Again, we're not seeing him on the relative at the moment. Of course, I don't think he's left the race. I don't know if and he won't have any repairs to do.
Yeah, so this is very interesting.
And we've got the quick repair as well this week, so that's not going to be an issue.
Very interesting.
But he's got a lot of work to do
Where
with 44 laps remaining. He's got to essentially climb his way back up the entire field, because look at that. Everybody's unlapped themselves now. So it's Miguel Carrera, then it's Matthew Blackley in the 41 P2. P3 is now Garrett Cannon, who will have a shot at a podium spot. And John Norton leads the cars that have got themselves back on the lead lap in the 17.
I'm very okay. So Davis is P7 currently, and it looks like Davis is also lapped down.
He's staying in the pits. He was Davis Greenwell, the rival of Miguel Carrera, the one who looked like he might be able to take this race, is staying in the pits as the rest of the field comes to the green flag to restart the race. It's going to be Miguel Carrera and Matthew Blackley to get us back underway with a good gap already over Garrett Cannon and John Norton, and they're already extending that advantage. And Carrera, look at that, he's immediately assumed the race lead, as he has been for the entire day. Blackley will try and find a way through, I'm sure, and try and use that safety car restart, that caution period ending, that advantage. But look at that. Who is just in front of these guys, Misha? Davis, Blackwell. Yeah, Davis is right ahead of these guys.
I'm very curious. We have game chat. I texted Jobe to see if I can get an answer. Maybe he had the background.
Yeah.
What happened to Davis? We should be able to see this too.
He's being scored off the lead lap, which is the main thing. That's the other thing. But then that wouldn't really explain the full, because that would just warrant a black flag, which would mean he'd have to go and come in again, which he didn't do, to our knowledge. So the fact isn't changing though. Davis Greenwell, with 40 laps to go or thereabouts, is off the lead lap, and bar another caution period. I can. I think it must be. It could well be at that pit lane speeding penalty. We'll get that confirmed later after the race, I imagine. If you are watching this broadcast and you're wondering, how do I get involved with this? Check the Discord, which will be linked in the bio in the YouTube channel or Twitch channel if you're watching on Twitch. Plenty of brilliant sim racers in this league, in GT3 and the NASCAR series as well. Always looking for more sign-ups to expand both fields. As Garrett Cannon now under pressure from John Norton, who seems to sort of be having a bit of a late race charge at the moment. He's going to dive to the inside line, try and get up to the rear quarter panel of the 25 machine at the moment, but that's not going to come off for him at the moment. Behind them is the 4 of Michael Donoghue. It's the closest battle on the racetrack. But yeah, goodness me, Davis Greenwell has gone from the man most likely to walk away with the victory to the man now down a lap or two, running in P7. And from here on out, I think it always really has been Miguel Carrera's race to lose, and now it really must be a surely, Misha.
Yeah, for sure, unless there's another caution. That's the biggest thing that Davis needs to do right now is not get that. I think he's, well, yes, he's currently the last car. First car, lap down. So he will be getting the lucky dog if there's another caution. He is right time. If I was Miguel, that's one thing that you got to wonder is Miguel going to push it and try to get in front of Davis now, so you can pretty much eliminate your top competition and pass him down.
Yeah, well, we can see is that Miguel Carrera, since setting off in the lead of this race, he's opened up the gap by about a second to Matthew Blackley, and he's in doing so taken the fastest lap of the race. He's running a 29.3 on that. Now he's dropped back into the 30s, but a 29.3 is what he was able to achieve on one of these few laps. And now look at the gap; it is starting to come down to Davis Greenwell. If Davis is lapped now, I think it's surely game over, really, in terms of trying to get back on the lead lap, because he'd be 2 laps down, and with what, you know, a good 54 to go. I don't quite see how it's going to happen for him if he does lose this next lap. This is a huge moment in this race, because Miguel Carrera is going to be wanting it more. I mean, he's going to be wanting it, I can say that, but you can see it on screen. Look at the way he's closing up. Again, running that slightly higher line, but he's going to try and use to just keep his tyres fresh, of course, but also carry that extra speed, Misha. This is going to be so crucial when he makes this pass.
Well, that outside line works, and I think he might have done.
Yeah. Well, Greenwell tried to make it more difficult off that final corner. They're running side by side through turn 2. It's not quite the way we envisioned these two would be battling a few minutes ago, but now they are battling under entirely different circumstances. In fact, look at that. Carrera's going to try and hang it around the outside through the final corner. Can he get the run off the final corner is the big question, because look how low into that corner, that final corner, that Davis Greenwell is just extending, trying to maximise the efficiency of his NASCAR. They've been side by side for well over a lap now.
The biggest thing here too is the longer this goes on, and that might be the pass right here, but let's see how Davis can do on the outside line.
It's role reversal. Now it's Davis on the outside line, and he's actually able to hang it around much better. He's going to make contact with the wall, but he's going to open that gap up and protect himself for another lap at least. What this is doing, look, is unlocking Matthew Blackley's pace. He's close right up to this, so Miguel Carrera hasn't been able to shift the 22 so far, and that's costing him valuable time, because the 41 is coming right up on these two, and we could well have a fight for the lead in another different way than we envisioned, because he hasn't really had the pace all afternoon. He's been there and thereabouts, but he's faded a couple of times already, and now he's finally picking it back up again. In the background, you've got John Norton and Garrett Cannon who are doing the business and trying to fight their way. And look at this from Miguel Carrera, running the highest line we've seen him run all day, and he's going to get the slipstream this time, get to the inside of the 22, who will also be running higher than he ever has this afternoon. They're side by side once again, but look at the racecraft on show from the 20 here is incredible, because he ran that high line, got the slipstream down into the final corner, made the pass, and while Davis is going to try and hang it around the outside through turns 1 and 2, I think it's all but over now.
He's not in there. He did.
He has.
Oh wow! He returned the favor. That's crazy.
They're racing like it is for first, but it's of course just to lap one of the guys. So it is Miguel Carrera running in P1, gets the job done that time. I think he'll be safe for now. He's going to look to the inside line, just try and cover it off from Davis Greenwell, and there he is. The move is made now. There's nothing Davis can really do when the gap's opened up in the way it has. Matthew Blackley's now the next man behind him, as Davis will try and run the outside, but all that's doing is opening up, making him more vulnerable to the 41, who's going to go through on the inside line like it's nothing. There's John Norton again trying to get past Garrett Callan to 4th place, try and give himself that time he needs to go and lap or get himself back up to the 41. I think that the 22, for all his might, for all his effort, he's pushed hard enough. And I think he's pushed a bit too hard maybe, because he's now lost a lot of time to not only Miguel Carrera, but also he's slipped behind the 41 now. He's going to be kicking himself for that pit lane penalty, which is what we believe is the reason he is a lap down. But now, Misha, we've got another new battle, because if Blackley can close up the 41, can close up to the 20 right now, it's going to be very, very interesting to see who has the tyre and fuel advantage going into the last stages of this race. But for now, it's running line astern. The gap's still coming down by the finest of margins between Miguel Carrera and not Darby Mario. Sorry, that's me misreading the timing. It's of course Miguel Carrera and Matthew Blackley. That gap is closing rapidly. Now I'm pretty sure they took pretty much identical pit strategies when we came to pit lane for that sole caution. It's the only caution we've had all day. But I think Matthew Blackley started to, maybe it's that his car prefers these cooler temperatures we're getting as the sun starts to set on Charlotte. But he's certainly doing everything he can to try and catch up on Miguel Carrera. Perhaps it is that kind of differing strategy they took under the safety car. But look at the 41, he's closing right up to the back of the 20 now. This could be the move for the race lead in just a few laps time, as long as he can hang with Miguel Carrera, who's been so dominant, so strong all day long. This is where it starts to count. We're 118 laps in, so 42 to go. We're getting into crunch time mode now for both these drivers. As you can see, Davis Greenwell just starting to fade from the picture. Every lap that ticks by is a lap less that he has to his advantage. And every lap that ticks by for Miguel Carrera can't come too soon right now, because he's under a lot of pressure from Matthew Blackley. He's trying to do what he can to really close up to the race leader that's been so dominant all this race, but he doesn't seem to quite be able to make those last few tenths and make them good. They're going to run into traffic soon enough, I think, because Darby Marioff running P6 on the road is just 6.8 ahead. And goodness me, Davis Greenwell's going into the pits again. And I'd wager that that's not for fuel and tyres, because of course he would have taken both of those during the safety car stop. So I'm not quite sure why he's pulled into the pits. Maybe he's thinking I can just go to the end now and get my final stuff out the way, and then just hope for that caution period that is exactly what he needs to get himself back in the bigger picture of things. Also in the pits is Brody Biscup. Haven't mentioned him too much on the broadcast today, making his debut in the NASCAR Cup Series in Jobe's Motorsports. Hasn't really been the debut he'd have wanted. The man who has having the ultimate debut right now is Miguel Carrera, with a lead of 0.6 over Matthew Blackley right now in the purple and black 41 machine. But I think what we're seeing now again is without the pressure of Davis Greenwell, is Miguel Carrera is starting to just find himself in that groove again. find himself in the flow state, find himself just running the laps half conscious, which is kind of what you do in these NASCAR in these longer NASCAR races, because it's the same tournament. The grip will change slightly over the course of the race, but for the most part, it is going to be the same track you're running on for 160 laps. If you can perfect your braking points and the point in which you get back on the throttle, you're basically good for the full 24, for the full amount of time in the race. But for the moment, it is Miguel Carrera then leading Matthew Blackley by about 0.8 of a second. John Norton has cleared the 25 of Garrett Cannon. Gap is well over a second now. Yeah, he closed up a little bit, of course, earlier on, but he kind of is fallen back now. I think potentially it could be that sort of, I don't want to risk my tyres and fuel. If we get another caution later on, save it for then, I think is his strategy, because I don't think he kind of knows he hasn't really got the pace to get past Miguel Carrera on his own. I think that's kind of been the theme for everybody today. We still haven't figured out exactly why Davis Greenwell re-entered the pits, but again, we'll get that to you shortly. And for now, though, I think everyone's kind of just hunkering down, getting in their groove, Misha, before the final push to the flag.
Yeah, for sure. Once again, some pace. Looks like Blackley's definitely holding on a lot better this stint. Might have learned a lot about the tires at first. So we'll see if he can hang in at this 8/10 gap. But with it being the caution restart, everybody pretty much starts the field pitted at but everybody kind of starts the race again on a fresh slate, so we'll have to see if Mike hits, maybe try the overcut again, because we did see the ending. We did see Davis right there before the caution came out. He started himself up and making a tackle together. Got to see, that's the important thing here. If they do have to pick up they wanted to try to
Exactly, I mean,
because if Matthew tries the undercut, there could be a good chance that he does get the pass. But that could leave him at the red lane tires. We're going to see. Very interesting.
it's going to be a very interesting strategy point, because, of course, I think if we do go caution free for the rest of the race, and by the way, I still haven't figured out exactly what that caution was for. But assuming we do go caution free, it's going to be that kind of same situation again of who goes first, who blinks first, because of course every lap you don't pit is a lap you're shaving off 0.1 of a second in the pits for fuel. Every lap you don't pit is also kind of delaying the inevitable, and it's all going to be determined really by how long these guys are going to be limited to, because of course they're using those 80% fuel tanks, but they're going to all be running slightly different, kind of fuel use per individual lap, and whether you are in fuel saving mode and trying to make it to the end without another stop is an entirely different question, of course. But yeah, we saw how well Miguel was at kind of defending against that overcut from the 22 earlier on. Can he do the same thing, or has Matthew Blackley got another ace up his sleeve that we weren't previously aware of? I think that's the big question as we come towards we're past lap 130 now, so we really are going to be looking at a very, very short pit stop when they do happen, Misha.
If I was Blackley now, see Miguel starting to matter what in terms of fuel, right? Got to try something different. Tires are fading. I'd pit now. Try to get in front of him with an undercut, and if you do, fin with your life. That would be my game plan here. Let's see if Miguel can eke out any more gap here. Slowly starting to eke the gap out. So that's the thing I look at right now. You know, you're gonna have to pit one more time. I would pit before I let this race get too far away from me, because this current set, it looks like it's starting to get away.
Yeah, that's what I'd say. I think you're kind of seeing that with the gap that Miguel Carrera is starting to pull. I think he's starting to think about that kind of fuel strategy. He's thinking, let's try and open this gap up as much as I can, because I know I have the pace, and he knows he has the pace. And I think that Matthew will also know that he maybe hasn't quite got the pace on Miguel Carrera, who's been just flawless pretty much all day. He's just been such a domineering driver in the sense that he's gone from start to finish and never really looked phased, never really had to change his lines that much or anything like that. So he's been very comfortable at this front of this race for so long, and you can still see the top two on the same screen. But I think when you think about the implications of this for the final pit stops when it comes, we know, just given the number of laps that are left, they're going to be very short, they're going to be very swift, and it's going to be about when you time them. I think that's going to prove absolutely crucial. If you're Matthew Blackley, you've basically got to do whatever. You've got to almost find a target lap for yourself, and you'll know your target lap because you'll know how long you can run. You've kind of just got to do whatever. Well, I was just going to say, you've got to do whatever Miguel Carrera doesn't do, and now he's doing exactly that, because Carrera has come into the pits then for his final stop, Misha. Here we go then. What's it going to be? Is it going to be tyres? Is it going to be 2 tyres, 4 tyres? Or is it just going to be fuel? We'll have to wait and find out. Here he is. Pulls into his pit box. I think it's just going to be fuel this time, because I can't see the jacks. No, the jacks are up. But I think he's taken 2 tyres there on his right side.
Nope, 4.
No, it's 4 tyres. He's taking a completely new set with, 20 laps to go? I don't know if that's the right call, Misha. Surely you can just leave them on to the end, because you're going to save that time running out here, and this is where it becomes huge, because of course Michael Blackley won't know that Miguel Carrera has taken those 4 tyres, but if he takes 2 or takes none, then it becomes a completely different race, because you're saving enough time to reasonably take the lead of the race. What he is also doing, Misha, is going longer on this stint. And what did we see? Who did we see go longer last time round? The 22.
Yeah, but this one is a completely different pit stop, because this means this is the end of the race. He only has to pit, or only has to fuel so much. So, I mean, that might be the call at the end of the day. Run this dry, and you're going to have to fuel the least amount. So we'll have to see.
We will indeed. So it's 21 to go. So there's going to be almost no time for a proper move to be made when the pit stops are done. Look at this though. Blackley's gone 4 or 5 laps. He's going to go about 5 laps longer on this stint. And what that's going to do, of course, is that's going to save you about a second or 2 in the pits anyway, just on the fuel. If he chooses to try and eke it out and not take tyres, save that time and go to the end on this set, which, to be honest, I'd sort of be inclined to do if I were in his position, then we've suddenly got a really interesting race here.
Yeah, because right now, Miguel is still the earliest one to pit. Let's see what his... here we go. So Miguel's last lap, who's running a 29.5 compared to everybody else's. Looks like they're in the 30s. So he is making up ground. Surely he is making up ground without a doubt. So we're gonna have to see how it all pays out. Because if he do save time in the pits, regardless, he's saving time on the track. So we'll have to see. We will have to see.
That's going to be very interesting as we cut to the last few moments of this race. Is the pit stop going to happen? No, it's staying out. Matthew Blackley is staying out another lap. He's going to go with 19 to go now. Do you think he might be able to go to the end on this? I mean, it would be a tall order.
I don't think so. I don't think so, but I mean, he's going to have a massive tire Miguel Pin 36, so this is a bigger tire advantage than in round again. When does he pull the trigger? I wonder if it's going to be about with 15 to go. 15 laps on completely fresh tires, and that would put it at about a 10-lap difference, which is going to be even more significant than the 4 lap we saw.
But I think what we're seeing though, I think he's almost waiting far too long, because that last lap he did was a 30.6, and that's what most of the field are running right now. So that essentially means that the 20 of Miguel Carrera is lapping about a second faster. So he's losing a second every single lap. That's a lot of time. I think he might have gone a bit too long on this last stint. It would have been the safest option he had was to go 1 or 2 laps longer than the 20 of Miguel Carrera. But now he's trying to stick it out and go completely solo.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting here to see. I don't think there's any way he has 15 left in that tank. But Thomas,
Do you remember how early Miguel pulled out of the gates in that pit cycle? I called it out. Do you remember what if Miguel in that pit cycle?
You think? It would make sense if as to why he pulled that lead.
And I could be wrong. I could be completely wrong. But I mean, we got the top 2 right now still trucking it without making another pit stop, and I could be completely wrong. But we're going on now exactly 10 laps past.
But it started. Well, I think really, if you look at it, then it's very much in the realms of possibility. Because why would you pit with 10 with any inside the final 10 laps? I think what we're seeing here is, even though that I think the reason these lap times have dropped off so much. I mean, even that John Norton's in the 31s, and that the couple of guys in the 30s. I think they're just trying to fuel save to get to the end. But what this is allowing the 20 to do on his fresh tyres and fresh fuel, if he did underfuel on that occasion, then he's going to be about a second faster than all these guys. You know, we've got Matthew Blackley, race leader, heading into the final, the first couple of corners now. The big question is, as Carrera comes on the relative now in 3rd place, 6.7 seconds the gap, and he's closed in by 6/10 on that last one. This is going to actually get incredibly tight if they're going to the end.
But Miguel's a lap down, my friend, because of the green flag pit. So that's 6 seconds. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So it's.
Oh.
These guys may have realized the second that Miguel hit it, he basically has to make up to get past him twice, right? They may have realized that and completely let off the gas. Oh
no! Look at it. He's pitting in. He's pitting in.
That is the
with
pit.
What? With 11 laps to go. We've got the race leader in the pits coming for the ultimate splashing test. This will literally be about a second of fuel. There goes Miguel Carrera, and now it's a complete race off pit lane, because we know they can go about 30 seconds a lap. I think it's going to be incredibly tight as to whether Miguel Carrera can retake the lead.
He is not go up on the jacks. He is not going up on the jacks, and he is out. Let's see where Miguel is.
There we go.
Let's see where
What's
Miguel
the gap?
is.
Carrera's 8.6, 8.7. So Carrera's coming onto the back fifth now. A slight tap on the wall. I don't think it's going to be enough, and it isn't. Or it isn't. It is going to be. It's going to be what? 3 seconds. 2.5. This is going to be incredibly tight for the last times. There is the run.
Does he make a block?
There is the run from Miguel Carrera.
Okay,
and ahead of him by what? 1.3 seconds is Matthew Blackley, who hasn't taken fresh tyres, who's just gone for the absolute smallest amount of fuel he could possibly manage. I think what we're in for here, Misha, is basically 4 weeks in a row an incredibly dramatic finish in the Jobe Motorsport Racing League.
It is for sure. And you know that Michael Matthew is definitely going to be fighting with everything he has. And let's see how fast this gap is. Because Miguel is stuck behind lap traffic, I believe, in 22.
Yeah, he is.
And he is still
well,
stuck.
I mean, we thought
He's still stuck.
he's still stuck behind. Oh, you're
my
the wall.
goodness!
Is that it? Is that it for Miguel Carrera? He's hitting the wall hard on a tank clapper on the right-hand side, on the left-hand side of his car. Is that going to be it? Because the gap's now opened up to 1.6 to Matthew Blackley, and he's still got that lap traffic in the way. Has Blackley pulled off an absolute mastermind by doing the ultimate back timing on the fuel and just completely going in for the ultimate splash and dash? And I think he might have done it from that, because look at that. Carrera's going to have, he's surely going to have some kind of damage, be it superficial or potentially steering, from that contact. It was a big hit, Misha, wasn't it?
That was a smack. You saw his car react heavily, so we're going to have to see. He is struggling mightily against Davis to pass him. But as you know, in NASCAR, there's no blue flags. There's nothing that's aggravating as this is. This is within the rules, and you see it all the time in real life. But we'll see. Right now, we know that I think he definitely has damage because he was riding that wall the entire time.
He's riding the wall, and you know what? I think he's made contact with the wall there through turn 2. He's just dropped off a little bit on that gap. He's trying to run the high side. There's a slingshot past the 22, but it is not going to happen. With the time is running out, with 6 laps to go. I think that contact with the wall killed his momentum, and as long as Matthew Blackley has not underfueled the car by too much, he's going to just about do this.
And they're both catching, because that 22 is catching up to
They're both
Matthew.
catching.
So Miguel is getting dragged regardless closer to Matthew. We'll have to see.
I mean, these two, the fate of these two in this race has been absolutely intertwined, hasn't it? Because Davis Greenwell and Miguel Carrera look like the favourites. They look like the dueling pair for so long in this race, and they've come together in the last 5 laps or so in completely different circumstances, running on different laps, because of course this is essentially Miguel Carrera trying to lap Davis Greenwell, who is running 7th, and here comes the move on the inside with 4 laps to go. This is the move for the on the inside, but he's not able to make it happen. They've come together, they've met each other in the final few laps of this race, and Greenwell is now holding up. He's got past him, and he's now holding up Miguel Carrera. So the roles have been reversed, and this is huge for Michael Blackley, because what it means is Miguel Carrera can't get by the mean green 22 machine, and so Michael Blackley might have a clear run to the flag here. He's got no traffic to get through. The gap stands at 0.9 seconds with about to come into 2 laps to go.
He's got to make.
And I think
there's no other.
He's got to do it now.
He's got to yeet it in turn 1. There's no other.
He's got to yeet it. He's got to. The thing is, though, the helmet. You know, you can do the Hail Medal at Martinsville. You can't do it around Charlotte Motor Speedway. The walls won't allow it. You'll lose too much speed. And he's not able to make it done there. He's going to slingshot underneath, get to the quarter panel of the 22. He's going to send it on the inside, but the 22 has the speed. It is damage for Miguel Carrera that is going to cost him this race. White flag is in the air, and as Miguel Carrera sits behind the 22 for another lap, Matthew Blackley is going to be thanking his lucky stars, because he's perfected the strategy on this one. He's going to come off the stars and stripes of the back straight, head into turns 2 and 3, and in the venue of the biggest race of the NASCAR season, the longest race of a NASCAR season, it is the shortest fuel pit stop that will see Matthew Blackley take the win at Charlotte Motor Speedway in round 2 of the Jobe's Motorsport League. They're still going to run round one more lap. I think this might be the final lap now, in fact. What a win for Michael Blackley. He's going to come off the corner. The gap is closing up. Michael Blackley then off the final corner to take victory at Charlotte in the Jobe's Motorsport Racing League. Round 2 of the NASCAR Cup Series season goes to the 41, the pink machine.
Wow.
And what a win it is for Matthew Blackley, who perfected the fuel strategy. We thought it was the biggest risk in the world to pit when he did with 15 laps to go. We said there wouldn't be enough time if he made a mistake, and if he lost that position, there wouldn't be enough time to get it back. Well, what he did was he cut it as fine as he could. And in the end, the gamble pays off here in week 2. It is Matthew Blackley who will take the second victory of the season, will put himself, I think, into the championship lead at Charlotte Motor Speedway. It's another absolutely awesome finish here in the Jobe's Motorsport League. Here come the burnouts, and how well deserved they are, Misha. What a race that was.
I mean, he had a little bit of help holding off Miguel, and I mean, I know that's definitely probably more, deal with. I'd be upset. I would be absolutely pissed off, but that unfortunately is within the rules of NASCAR, and whether it be, I'm not quite aware of what the teams are, whether it be a teammate situation or just hard feelings or just trying to not get lapped again. Whatever it was, the 22 felt like he needed to fight, and he did indeed, and that definitely helped Matthew finish off that with that amazing strategy, that amazing gamble. And every strategy, I think, has a little bit of luck involved, and that one worked out perfectly. Amazing race by Matthew. He was consistently P3, I believe, all day, so contender
Pretty
all
much.
day. Made that call at the end, decided to go long, no tires, and it worked. So amazing race, guys. I'm very happy with what we saw. Didn't seem like anybody took advantage. I mean, we didn't even need. I don't know if anybody used a fast repair, but in terms of chaos on the track, we had 2 cautions, I believe. If
Just the one, I think.
we don't know, we're gonna have to see if anybody messages us if there's anything we didn't catch on the broadcast, because obviously you and me are limited just what we saw. Had a little bit of technical difficulties, as you guys could tell. We ran a little bit different overlays tonight. Trying to get that ironed out. But I think overall, great stream, great race. Got it all to come together. And once again, like we've been saying this entire time, it's the guys on track that made this awesome. So I can't thank you guys enough.
Oh, absolutely. I think this was a brilliant showcase in the sense that it was such a clean race, and such a brilliant race in the sense that it was able to unfold very, very naturally without we had that one caution that really did help, I think, but it had just enough kind of carnage it very much naturally played out to where we had that awesome final 15-20 laps of the strategy coming into play. And as you said, great clean race, great stream, great race. I can't wait to be back here next week for another round of GT3 at Okayama, and also back here in 2 weeks' time for another NASCAR race. But for now, my name has been Thomas Groves. This has been week 2 of the NASCAR Cup Series season here at Jobe's Motorsports. Alongside me in the booth, Misha White. And we will say good night to you from Charlotte Motor Speedway. Thank you very much for watching.